Hello, glad you can join us. Here's what we have for you. The suggestion of AI behind an unsettling voicemail.
Any public figure has no hope of protecting their voice.
Decoding a terrifying threat.
The plane really did vibrate through and throughout.
Checking in on a bumpy WestJet landing in the Caribbean.
This is a book ban gone wrong.
Plus, we have a read on Alberta's next chapter.
CTV National News with Sandy Ronaldo.
And we begin with an intriguing question. Is artificial intelligence behind a chilling death threat a potential mayoral candidate says he received from a city councillor? The municipal politician whose voice is heard on the menacing message claims she is the victim of cloning. Regardless, the candidate was so shaken over the threat of harm, he reached out to police. CTV's John Venevali-Rao is in Clarington, Ontario with this gripping story. Okay, John, what have you learned?
Sandy, it's a twist to a sensational story, with the councillor now saying she was essentially the victim of identity theft. Well, Karina Trail has not yet commented on camera about the incident. In her statement, Trail now says she never left the threatening voice message in question, which this former homicide detective received on his phone in late August. In the message, someone who identifies themselves as Trail can be heard using expletives, saying he shouldn't run for mayor in next year's election.
And that if I don't, she will come to my house and kill me and sexually assault my wife.
Convinced it came from Trail, Tom Dingwall notified police who are investigating. Initially, Trail addressed the voicemail, in part saying it was an unfortunate circumstance she was dealing with. But in a new statement writes, "I want to state clearly and unequivocally, I did not create this message. I have been advised that artificial intelligence technology was involved. Portions of the voicemail were my voice, but other parts were artificially generated." Adding, "I have not addressed this issue until now, as we were working to ascertain the source of the message." Replicating someone's voice using AI has become incredibly easy. Often it requires simply going to a website or downloading some software and then providing a sample of the person's voice.
The tools nowadays, with around 20 seconds worth of voice, you can do an awfully good job. Any public figure has no hope of protecting their voice.
Clarington's mayor says because the matter is under police investigation, he can't say much. He says Trail did not appear at a council meeting this morning and that the matter has been a distraction.
It's not helpful to public's confidence in the system at all. So a distraction, yes. All-consuming, no.
Trail says she'll continue to cooperate with the investigation and that she plans to stay on as councillor. She also says she's received messages of support and wished Dingwall well in the upcoming election. Sandy.
Okay, John, thank you. Well, we are learning more about what may have caused a WestJet flight from Toronto to the Caribbean island of Sint Maarten to make a hard landing. People were shaken, but everyone got out safely. CTV's Rahim Ladani and what more we know today.
Passengers on board this Boeing 737 were jolted as their aircraft fiercely made contact with the runway in Sint Maarten in the Caribbean Sunday afternoon.
It was a very hard bounce. The plane really did vibrate through and throughout.
164 people were on board this WestJet flight arriving from Toronto around 1:30 local time. Moments after flying over the famous Maho Beach, where tourists watch planes pass over them daily, the aircraft made a hard landing, tipping to the right side, appearing to collapse the landing gear.
The last 15, 20 feet of the landing approach, you're going to flare the airplane out, where you raise the nose slightly, increase the lift on the wing, slows the descent rate. If you do that too early, you float down the runway. And if you do it too late, well, I think you can kind of see what happens.
Passengers had to slide down the aircraft, and emergency responders deployed foam as a precaution. 3 people were taken to hospital for medical evaluation, but the airport is reporting no injuries.
At first, it really wasn't registering. I was more concerned about getting off and making sure my wife was okay. But now it's just to think about it. we almost lost our lives.
In a statement, WestJet says, at this time, we are awaiting confirmation on the exact nature of the incident. Our teams are focused on supporting our guests and crew, ensuring their safety and care remain our highest priority. John Genitakis and his family are stuck on the island. They were supposed to fly home to Toronto before the incident, but have since had multiple flights canceled and say WestJet isn't communicating with them.
I've emailed, text, we've called, no response at all, nothing. That's the frustration. It's just no communication at all, zero.
The Transportation Safety Board of Canada will be sending a team to lead an investigation into the incident, but add the agency does not assign fault or determine civil or criminal liability. Rahim Ladani, CTV News, Toronto.
A terminal at Europe's busiest airport was shut down today over what's being described as a possible hazardous materials incident. A crowd was seen outside Terminal 4 at London's Heathrow Airport, which is now reopened after it was declared safe. The nature of the incident hasn't been disclosed, and the airport says it's doing everything possible to get all flights taking off as planned. A caution about this next story, as we're about to show you the sexually suggestive letter allegedly written by Donald Trump to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. It was released today by Democrats on the U.S. House Oversight Committee. This is the first time this image has been made public, although the contents of the letter were already known. The words written inside a drawing of a woman's body were part of a 2003 book compiled for Epstein's birthday and ends with the line, "Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret." Trump has denied writing the letter and drawing the picture, and today the White House called the entire birthday card story false, calling it fake news. Well, the Prime Minister, joined by his Fisheries Minister and the Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador, rolled out federal assistance for industries hardest hit by Donald Trump's punishing tariffs. CTV senior political correspondent Mike LeCouture now on how Ottawa's latest measures measure up. Hi, Mike.
Well, Sandy, today we got some details about the billions of dollars worth of help provided for industries affected by tariffs in this months-long trade war.
$80 million of that funding will be dedicated to businesses right here in Atlantic Canada.
That money is being put aside for small and medium-sized businesses in the region and will be shared between the 4 provinces.
What we're allocating here is bigger than the relative share of population, the relative share of GDP of the overall Canadian economy, allocated that way.
It's part of a $1 billion fund to help those businesses affected by the tariffs. But some advocates point out businesses are still trying to repay pandemic loans, and they'd like to see relief in another form.
Perhaps a measure to actually eliminate all corporate income taxes on small firms until such time as we're on the other side of the trade war.
Ultimately, aluminum is a commodity.
In Montreal, Industry Minister Mélanie Joly sketched out some details around the sectoral help.
Quebec aluminum sector will get its fair share, and we believe that with the projects that are being discussed right now with Alcoa, with Rio Tinto, and with Alouette, it's hundreds of millions of dollars.
Both the financial aid and focus on using local aluminum for public procurement projects is being applauded by the industry, but it won't replace what's being lost in the trade war.
We can't just easily transfer what was sold in the US just here in Canada. The market size is smaller.
Minister Joly says the government is doing a full court press in negotiations with the U.S., adding the clerk of the Privy Council, Michael Sabia, was in Washington last week.
Right.
Sandy?
Okay, Mike, thank you. We now know the effect of the U.S. president's removal of the de minimis exemption, a program that allowed small Canadian businesses to avoid duties on small packages destined for the U.S. market. Well, according to the Universal Postal Union, deliveries are down at least 80%. CTV's Judy Trin now on the dramatic drop in traffic and the cost. Hey, Judy, what do you have?
Sandy, the new policy means a huge amount of red tape for small Canadian exporters who sell to U.S. customers.
This is our warehouse. We have the shipping command center.
From a warehouse in Toronto, Jenna Reed sells environmentally friendly clothes, like the shirt she's wearing and children's toys that she brings in from Europe. Her business generated $1 million in revenue last year. Sales to the U.S. have plummeted after the de minimis exemption was removed.
Straight loss of 20 to 25% of our sales are just gone. Just overnight turned off.
Reed stopped selling to American customers after the U.S. put tariffs on foreign shipments valued at $800 or less.
De minimis, it's a big deal. It's a big scam going on.
Last year, more than 1 billion low-value parcels were shipped to the U.S., amounting to more than $64 billion in goods. After tariffs took effect on the products on August 29th, postal traffic plunged by 81%. The Trump administration initially said it was changing the policy to stop drug traffickers from sending illicit drugs through the mail, one package at a time. But trade experts say more targeted action could have been taken.
The United States has additional tools it could use, better screening mechanisms to monitor illegally shipped items. Rather than disrupting a really valuable tool for American consumers and small businesses.
With the de minimis exemption gone, small exporters now need to collect duties, but also disclose where the products were originally made. Business owners like Jana Reed say this means they will have to work harder to build up their domestic customer base instead of relying on the U.S.
Okay.
Sandy.
All right, Judy, thanks. The self-proclaimed Queen of Canada is being released from custody after a bail hearing in a Saskatchewan court today, but the judge has imposed some conditions.
Quite a bit of time going over those conditions, and certainly our concern was that she know what the conditions are and that she'd be willing to abide by those conditions, and that was something that the court went through.
50-year-old Romana Didolo must remain at her Regina home, not have any contact with alleged victims or have any weapons. She's charged with breaching a court order and attempting to intimidate a justice system participant called a cult leader for heading up her Kingdom of Canada group. Didolo is a conspiracy theorist who has threatened to kill opponents. She is representing herself and will be back in court on September the 17th. BC's General Employees Union said today it is ramping up strike action.
So tomorrow morning, you're going to see picket lines come up in cities across the province, whether that's Nelson, Williams Lake, Kamloops, Smithers, Fort St. John.
More than 1,000 additional union members will be joining colleagues on the picket line. The union, which represents some 34,000 public service workers, says it hasn't targeted the general public yet, only core government services. But if the province doesn't come to the table, that will change. Wages, the biggest issue keeping the two sides apart. Now, Alberta has updated the rules around its school book ban. The province today revealed a new set of criteria for what is and isn't allowed in school libraries. And this comes after one of the school boards included Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale on the blacklist, of course, sparking widespread criticism, including from the acclaimed author. CTV's Kathy Lee is in Calgary now with more on what's changed with the order. Kathy.
Sandy, the government says materials with visual depictions of sexual acts will be removed from schools. This is different from the original ministerial order, which included banning books with images, audio, and written passages with sexually explicit content. The Alberta government has emphasized that classic literary books will remain on shelves. This is in response to the Edmonton Public School Board, which had a list of more than 200 banned books that included many classics, including Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale. This sparked much backlash from the authors and the public.
Kids can do a really easy Google search, and you know, HBO and Netflix and all that. Like, are we going to ban the internet next? Right? Like, to protect students is to teach them, right? Teach them how to engage with material that you come across.
Premier Danielle Smith accused the school board of purposely misinterpreting the order. School boards will also need to be transparent with a publicly available list about what books are in the school library, and parents need to be informed about what books are being read in the classroom. Alberta school boards must implement all of the changes by January 5th.
Okay.
Sandy.
All right, CTV's Kathy Lee. Police are looking at 2 fires in Ottawa as suspicious, like this one involving a car crash at a magic mushroom dispensary. Witnesses say a car drove onto the sidewalk, crashed into the building and caught fire. The flames then spread to the 2-story structure. Firefighters were also called to a fire at another dispensary some 15 minutes away. And today we learned that the frontman of Supertramp, an iconic 70s British rock band, has died. Rick Davies, the lead singer and co-founder, passed away Saturday at his home in East Hampton, New York, after a decade-long battle with blood cancer. The band issued a statement confirming his death. Davies penned many of the band's most popular songs, including, as we just heard, Give a Little Bit, also Goodbye Stranger and My Kind of Lady. Rick Davies was 81 years old. Coming up after the break, the fate of a fugitive father and where he hid with his kids for years and years. U.S. President Donald Trump says he's considering tougher sanctions on Russia after the Kremlin launched its largest ever aerial assault on Ukraine since the invasion. Over the weekend, Russia launched more than 800 drones and 13 missiles, killing at least 8 people and injuring dozens. Moscow says any additional Western sanctions will not cause Russia to change its position on the war. Well, EU officials have condemned today's deadly attack in Jerusalem, carried out by 2 Palestinian gunmen who shot up a bus stop during the morning rush hour. At least 6 people were killed and 12 were injured. Police are calling it terrorism. Dashcam footage shows people fleeing the attackers that police say were from villages in the occupied West Bank. The 2 gunmen were killed by an off-duty soldier and an armed civilian. Hamas has praised the attack without claiming responsibility. Violent clashes in Nepal's capital between protesters and police today have left at least 19 people dead and nearly 150 wounded. Police opened fire after thousands of demonstrators defied a curfew and stormed the Parliament building. Frustration has been building over a ban on certain social media platforms. And the end of a mystery in New Zealand. A father on the run and hiding deep in the wilderness with his 3 young children was shot dead by police. Tom Phillips has been a wanted man since 2021. He was killed in a shootout this morning after he was spotted robbing a store. A police officer was wounded in the confrontation. 1 child was with Phillips at the time. The other 2 were found hours later in a dense forest. Still ahead, a public health warning over a growing and deadly medical emergency. Lately, we've been hearing more stories about a serious health issue, people getting sepsis and dying from the body's extreme response to infection. Well, now Canadian researchers are warning that the life-threatening reaction has reached the level of public health emergency. CTV's Adrian Gabriel joins us with a call for a national action plan. Okay, Adrian, what's next?
Sandy, researchers are hoping the federal and provincial governments will work together to close what's being called significant training gaps for healthcare providers when it comes to the potentially deadly immune response. Identifying and treating sepsis quickly with an antibiotic can be the difference between life and death.
Someone can go from being okay to really sick in a matter of minutes.
Sepsis can occur when the body's immune system is attempting to fight off an infection, which triggers a reaction that can lead to severe organ damage and even death. In 2020, a report estimated that 75,000 cases of sepsis occurred in Canada, leading to roughly 18,000 deaths each year. In recent months, CTV News has sat down with 2 husbands who each lost their wife after they gave birth in 2 separate Ontario hospitals. In both cases, the cause of death was linked to sepsis.
How do you tell your 4-year-old girls that they're never going to see mommy again?
We begged for help. Sepsis is a race against time, but doctors never started the clock.
Critical care doctor Callie Barrett is one of the authors of this peer-reviewed research paper that reveals significant gaps in sepsis policies, guidelines, and health professional training standards, and outlines the urgent need for a coordinated sepsis national action plan.
Every physician completing their training in Canada needs to know what sepsis is, and presently that's not the case. My fear is that we're going to continue to have these stories in the media about tragedies where people have unnecessarily died from a potentially preventable sepsis death.
Dr. Barrett and her research team are also calling on Canadians to know the signs of sepsis. If you're at home feeling unwell and are unusually drowsy, you may need to head to a hospital immediately. CTV News reached out to both the provincial and federal health ministries. We're told they're still preparing a response. Sandy.
Important information you've given us, Adrian. Thank you so much. After the break, turning over a new leaf, why some trees are showing their fall colors earlier than expected. It feels slightly cooler outside with that fall feeling in the air for many parts of the country. In Atlantic Canada, a region hard hit by summer drought, leaves are already starting to change colors. CTV's Sarah Plowman tells us why these changes are coming so early in the season.
Each day, Ellen Tramley Seymour chases beauty. Armed with her drone and a keen eye, she's noticed fall colors are popping already.
In my uneducated eye, they seem to be changing a little faster.
She's right. The leaves are changing and falling earlier than usual.
And what this is being driven by is the significant drought that the Maritimes has been experiencing.
For months, it's been unusually dry across the Maritimes.
There's been months of the past summer that have been some of the driest ones those areas have seen.
A challenge for fruit growers, farmers, but also trees. Less water puts stress on them. They need water for photosynthesis. Without it for prolonged periods, that process shuts down and trees stop producing green pigments.
And what that does, it begins to unmask some of the other pigments that are in the leaf, some of the yellow carotenes and xanthophylls. And that's why you'll begin to see sort of this yellow coloration that's occurring across the province in some trees.
This year, he says, expect colors to be more muted.
It's unlikely that we'll see beautiful, bright colors that you'd see in an ideal fall.
Either way, this photographer plans to make the best of it, just like other years.
I mean, if it's muted, then go early in the morning at golden hour or in the evening and get that golden color to come and help out.
Foresters at the city of Fredericton are also keeping a close eye on newly planted trees, likely to be extra stressed because of the lack of rain. They say it's too early to tell how many won't survive. Sandy.
Okay, Sarah, thank you. And thank you for sharing your time with us this Monday. I'm Sandy Ronaldo. Your local CTV News is coming up. Bye for now. Have a nice evening. We'll see you tomorrow.